students. I am Miss Alexander, your social studies teacher. Welcome to lesson 3. Today, we are continuing with our discussion on the topic roles and responsibilities, and we will look at the subtopic formation of a government. Before we do, let's take a quick recap of lesson 2. So, I will ask you a few questions and you can either jot them down, but I would really love for you to attempt answering some of these questions, even if this is the first time you're joining our lesson. The first question: a something is a legal proposal introduced in the National Assembly. A something is a legal proposal introduced in the National Assembly. We did say that this term is quite familiar because sometimes you might have been issued it while shopping. But when we speak of it in terms of government, it is used differently. What word is it? Or what is this instrument called? Right, if you said a bill, you are correct. Good job. Let's have the second fill in the blank question. The Guyana Parliament has a something. This means that there is a government with one legislative house or chamber. The Guyana Parliament has a something. This means that there is a government with one legislative house or one chamber. What is that something called? It's a system, and we mentioned it in our previous lesson. If you said a unicameral system, you are correct. Good job. Now let's have some true and false questions. The first one: Suriname does not have a unicameral system. Suriname does not have a unicameral system. True or false? Right, if you said false, you are correct. That statement is indeed false. Guyana and Suriname are two examples of CARICOM member states which uses the unicameral system. For our final true and false question, listen keenly. Trinidad and Tobago has the bicameral legislature. Trinidad and Tobago has the bicameral legislature. Is this true or is it false? Think about it. We did mention some CARICOM member states who uses the bicameral legislature. Is Trinidad and Tobago one of them? If you said true, the statement is indeed true. You are correct. Good job. I'm happy that you remember some of our key points from the previous session. You did great. Now, let's move right into today's lesson on the formation of a government. What are the objectives for today's lesson? Students should be able to 1. Describe the procedures in electing a government. 2. Explain why the procedures must be followed. And 3, explain that at times government is formed, but there is no election. So let's move into our first one, procedures in electing a government. In grade 8, you learned about the procedure in electing a government in Guyana using the proportional representation system. This remains the same. The Election Commission in Guyana, known as GECOM, is responsible for registering voters, providing election staff, and providing polling stations to conduct the elections in each of the 10 administrative districts. Voting starts at 6 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m. The political parties are responsible for providing a manifesto of their plans to the electorate. They may also share different parts of their manifesto at political meetings, rallies, and interviews, and even in advertisements. Parties must also submit a list of 65 candidates to the Election Commission. You will recall that we mentioned in a previous lesson that each political party has to submit the list from which the Member of Parliament would be selected for that party. Electors also have a part to play as the nation prepares for election. The elector must ensure that his or her name is on the list of electors, since it is their democratic right to participate in the electoral process. Voting is done by secret ballot for a party of their choice on the paper provided by the Guyana Elections Commission. After the conduct of polls, the ballots are counted and tallied, and after which the winner is announced. It is important for the procedures to be followed since it is a democratic process and every citizen who qualifies to vote must be given the opportunity to do so uninterruptedly. Some of the procedures are enforced by law. Should there be a violation against the law, the case may be tried in the court of law. Remember that in the previous session, we learned that laws are necessary because they protect our general safety and ensure our rights as citizens against abuses by other people, by organizations, and by the government itself. So it is important that all individuals and bodies involved in the electoral process abide by the laws of the land. We also said that since law is impartial, the lawbreaker must face the consequences by being charged and taken before the court. We will now move on to government formed without election. While governments are formed through elections, it must be noted that government is formed by other ways. These include through a coup d'etat, known as an overthrow or referred to as an overthrow, and also through succession. What is a coup d'etat? A coup d'etat, also known as a coup, it's a French term, is the term used to describe the sudden, violent overthrow of an existing government by a small group. The chief prerequisites of a coup is control of all or part of the armed forces, the police, and other military elements. A coup is a change in power from the top that merely results in the abrupt replacement of leading government personnel. A coup rarely alters nations' fundamental social and economic policies, nor does it significantly redistribute power among competing political groups. The second one that we mentioned is through succession. Hereditary monarchy is a form of government and succession in power in which the throne passes from one member of a ruling family to another member of the same family. A series of rulers from the same family would constitute a dynasty. For example, the Emperor of Japan is the head of the imperial family and the head of state of Japan. England also has a hereditary monarchy. So let's sum up today's lesson. We learned that the elector is required to go through the voter election process to exercise his or her democratic right to vote. We also learned that votes are cast using a ballot that is provided by the Guyana Elections Commission. A coup d'etat, also known as a coup, is the sudden violent overthrow of an existing government by a small group. It is the control of all or part of the armed forces, the police, and other military elements. And we also learned that hereditary monarchy is a form of government and succession of power in which the throne passes from one member of a ruling family to another member of the same family. Well, students, this has brought us to the end of today's lesson. We learned so much about rules and responsibilities and the government. Do remember to complete any of the activities or any of the questions that you might have missed out in our session today. I am Miss Alexander saying bye for now and see you in the next lesson.